especially on the combat side of things, we bottle things up so much, especially when it comes to coming back to the U.S. and transitioning over. The transition is the hardest. It took me years to get used to the civilian lifestyle. And even now, I'm still not used to it. But I do find that camaraderie, that value, the teamwork in being a first responder. Whether it's close protection or being a cop, you find that, you find that team building, you find that relationship, the environment. You're not looking for a firefight. You're looking to make a difference.
It's the kind of book that should be required reading for everybody thinking about going into a career in law enforcement, for anyone who is in law enforcement, is out of law enforcement. But more important than the book, can we talk about the scotch for a second?
Absolutely.
Guys, this is Daniel Bowen. He brought a bottle of 18-year-old Highland Park Viking Pride. So to you, to the journey, to your better half, to America.
Sláinte.
Amen. All right. Ooh, nice peat on that.
Beautiful.
So first of all, let's talk a little bit about you and your background, your story. Who are you?
Well, I'm a 6-year combat veteran, War on Terror. I served 6 years with the 10th Mountain Division in the U.S. Army. After I got out, I did contract work for a little bit with the Department of the Navy. However, I found myself going into federal law enforcement, in and out for 4 years. And between that time, I was recruited to work overseas in the Middle East for the State Department, working close protection for their international narcotics mission and for the Department of State Protective Services.
Where are you now? What are you doing?
Well, now I am in the D.C. metro area. I do part-time close protection with a few clients I stay in contact with. But I've just started a small security consulting firm that's actually based off the survival skills and information out of the guide.
Do you see yourself being back in the law enforcement world at any point?
Absolutely. It's a near future goal to get back into law enforcement again. It's something I've always enjoyed doing. And frankly, it's something I'm going to retire doing.
I have to ask the obvious question that there are people who are watching this who are desperately awaiting their retirement, want to know, which is, who the hell goes into law enforcement right now and why? And I think it's an important question to take on because it is such a noble cause. And yet with all of the media coverage about the crap that these guys go through, it leaves people wondering why they would want to do it.
That's a really good question. And there is no one reason for why we go back in. Whether you are a law enforcement officer, a first responder, whether you're a paramedic, a firefighter, or serving in the military, even a volunteer, we do it for the bigger picture. We do it because even if we're just one person in a uniform, if we could help one person, one community, if we could work to make everybody's lives a little easier, a little safer, you're literally setting a foundation for 30, 40, 50, 100 years from now. If we can't maintain that type of law and order and that type of moral compass within our own community, everything will fall apart.
Let's talk a little bit about your time in the service.
Sure.
War on Terror, it's not like things have been quiet over in Iraq, Afghanistan. What was your experience like? Any particular memories that jump out?
A few. My first deployment was back in 2006. It was a few years after the initial invasion. And my first deployment, we found ourselves in the mountains in the northeastern part of Afghanistan. And, I was younger then. I was much more of a runner and gunner kind of person. I was proud of what I was doing. I was happy with what I was doing. But especially during that time, there came a lot of losses. I've lost some good friends, over there, and those memories will never go away.
When you think about how many men and women survived that battlefield only to come back and lose the battle in their own living rooms to post-traumatic stress, How does that hit?
Well, ultimately it sucks. When it comes down to it, there's nothing that you could say or do that will change how we feel. Especially when you have, former friends and team leaders who took their own life with just stress taken, and they had family. They had loved ones. We could sit there and question why. Some of us look back on it and wonder, why didn't I reach out to him sooner? I haven't heard from him in a while. Why didn't I notice signs? Sometimes there aren't signs. Especially on the combat side of things, we bottle things up so much, especially when it comes to coming back to the U.S. and transitioning over. The transition is the hardest. It took me years to get used to the civilian lifestyle. And even now, I'm still not used to it. But I do find that camaraderie, that value, the teamwork in being a first responder. Whether it's close protection or being a cop, you find that, you find that team building, you find that relationship, the environment. You're not looking for a firefight. You're looking to make a difference.
Survival is something you did a lot of over there. It's something you did when you came back, just taking day to day. Talk to me a little bit about the book, what it is and why you launched it and who should buy it.
Well, the Law Enforcement Guide to Surviving the Off-Duty Environment, obviously it's a long title. However, it ultimately explains what the book is about. Law enforcement officers in particular, we train for an on-duty mentality. When we go through the police academy, we're given our body armor, firearms, tasers, OC spray, we're given batons, we're given vehicles, radios, we're given backup. We're given everything we need to do our job. But once we clock out for the end of the day, as much as we consider ourselves never officially off duty, all that support's gone, especially if you leave your hometown or jurisdiction. If you travel overseas for a vacation, you don't have that anymore. So what this book does is it helps you reevaluate you as an individual person, understanding what type of mentality you have, how it affects the training you've actually gone through, and what training you could actually go and take to help you narrow that gap of training you haven't received to survive off duty. There is no one training curriculum for it. However, there's plenty of police departments that just make the assumption that their officers going through the academy, they have an idea on what they do off duty. Every department has their own policies and procedures. A lot of officers don't even know what kind of off-site training they could go to that their departments will pay for until 2 or 3 years into being at their department. But because this guide focuses on that, that means it's not just meant for law enforcement. Any first responder, firefighter, paramedic, or even armed law-abiding citizen, what you learn out of this guide is actually a positive influence for all parties. And because of this, if you take all three parties, law enforcement, first responders, armed citizens, and you give them this kind of understanding and knowledge, you're actually closing the gap in building the relationships for a better foundation between citizens and your responders.
I don't think I could have put it any better. Go check out the book. Where can they buy it?
Well, right now you could buy it online at Mascot Publishing. That would be the publisher. You go to mascotbooks.com, or you could go to surviveodllc.com, where the book is also for sale, along with some accessories as well.
Or you just build a badass whiskey wall and people bring you books for free. Brother,
I like that idea.
Thanks for coming out, man. Thanks for the
pleasure.
whiskey. We'll get your name on the bottle. The bottle goes on the wall. Thank you all for watching. Thanks for hitting that share button. God bless America.